It's another special edition of Litter Media Live with our special guest, Michael Throne, President, CEO of the Ross Chillicothe Chamber of Commerce, or no, forgive me, it's Chillicothe-Ross Chamber of Commerce. I always get that and the Convention and Visitors Bureau mixed up there.
You need a standard on media information, right?
You would think so, right? We're going to talk about an initiative that was already in process, but now it's launched. And this, I think, is going to help with some resource material for a lot of folks looking for work, and especially with the uncertainty of the paper plant and so on and so forth. So we're going to discuss that coming up in just a moment. It's Scioto Valley Forward. Details coming up. But first, this from Kingston National Bank.
Wherever you are there for a reason. You shouldn't have to make a trip to the branch just to deposit a check. Skip the trip and use our mobile app to easily and securely deposit checks from your phone. Day or night, wherever you are, or whatever you're doing, download the Kingston National Bank Mobility app today.
Mike Throne with us again, President, CEO of the Chillicothe-Ross Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to talk about this new initiative you've lifted off today. This has been something that I think has been needed for this area. Mm-hmm. It's a collaborative effort that has brought a lot of resources all together for people, and it's called Scioto Valley Forward.
Yeah, it's a coalition that we developed. The easiest way to say it is it really crystallized after April 15th when the announcement of the paper mill closure came about. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, later in the week, we bought a little time to kind of pull things together by having the delay of the plant closure announced by Senator Moreno's office. And so as we started walking through the steps of what were going to be needed to address the workforce issues and the business issues, we kind of looked at it and said, well, we kind of need two things. We need a physical place for folks to go, and we need a digital place for folks to go. And so that's how Scioto Valley Forward kind of came about. And so SciotoValleyForward.com is the digital solution to that. And when you go to that site, you'll see a menu bar at the top that basically explains for local talent, which is the workforce. When you click on that, you'll go to a screen that basically gives you a variety of options of things that are resources to help. Find your next job, know what your rights are as an employee, find resources if you're out of work and you're struggling to pay rent or mortgage or things like that. All those resources are going to be aggregated in that area. And then there's one on the other side on the local businesses side that allows us to address sort of the after effects. We know about the 800 jobs or so that are at stake at the mill, but there's probably another 1,100 jobs attached to the supply chain that we have to address as well. And then you talk about the residuals of that, because as I said months ago, when the first statement came out on this, job loss creates uncertainty, which creates less spending. And so we know it's going to be a tough road for a lot of our businesses down the road. So how do we then address that for them? And so, what you're seeing today is the culmination of the first process of this. But we know that we're going to be adding resources and events and things like that to this resource for a long time coming. We've got events that we're going to be rolling out here pretty soon. We've already got one on the calendar, which is the Job Expo on the 25th of June. But then, of course, the Workforce Hub is the physical location, which is at the main annex of the main branch of the library at 140 South Paint. And Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from noon to 4 for right now is going to be staffed by Ohio Means Jobs workers and other folks that can connect, either folks that are or have already left or maybe will leave their job, to resources that will help them find their next opportunity. Or, they could be somebody that never had to have a job interview before. I've said many times, I can't tell you how many people have told me, I got hired at my job because Jimmy down the street gave me a recommendation. I walked in and they said, well, if Jimmy says you're good, then you're good. And, that story can be repeated time and time again at many locations.
Sure. And that conversation with Jimmy and that experience might have been 35 years ago.
For sure.
So I haven't had to look for a job.
Yep. And so we want to be able to help provide those resources for folks, take them on a mock interview, walk them through the resume writing experience, even provide counselors to kind of process some of the emotions of losing a job that you've had for 30 plus years, or, transitioning from one job, even if it's been 4 or 5 years. I mean, I know people that within the last 5 years have left their jobs and gone to work at a job that is, now not necessarily going to be there. So, we need to help people grieve that process and grieve what's going on, but at the same time, then provide something for them to give them the next step.
We know how much it was a pull the rug out from underneath of you announcement that was made back in April. But then to have the rally and what seemingly was good news at that point in time gave you a little hope, but there's that pocket of individuals that realize that maybe this isn't going to go through. Mm-hmm. Perhaps we need to help get people on their feet in a special way and give them the knowledge of power, or power of knowledge, and helping them with the resources they need. So it's great to see, while people are working, trying to bring something here to Chillicothe, it's great for those that are already here that are working to help us for what the future might be. Yeah.
So I pride myself on being one thing, and that's smart enough to know when to get out of the way. Yeah. And I think, this lane for us is the perfect lane for us. We're conveners, we're connectors. That's what we're doing with Scioto Valley Forward. We're fortunate to have a lot of folks in our community that are willing to partner with us. And so that's the exciting part of this thing. From the county commissioners to the city of Chillicothe to Greater Chillicothe and Ross County Economic Development, the library's been a great partner. They offered up that space to us without any questions. United Way, the Chillicothe-Ross Community Foundation is underwriting some of what we're doing in terms of, establishing the website and maintaining it. And then, of course, Ohio Southeast, Jobs Ohio, Ohio Means Jobs have been incredible partners. We're happy to partner with these folks on this part of it, and then let the economic development directors do the thing that they do really, really well, which is put things together to create incentive packages to bring the next big thing here. And, if what we're hearing on the street is what is indeed going to happen, and that could come out, very soon, then, it's time for us to then start thinking about what happens next.
Yeah, because you have to be prepared to do something next.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to know that in this community, while there is that small percentage of folks who are like, oh, what do we do? There is a group of thinkers that are making some things happen. Yep. And it's not just rattling swords. We're doing what we can to make something happen.
Yeah. And in all honesty, when I go to some of these meetings, and it's the county and the city and economic development and the state and so on and so forth, I'm just kind of excited to be in the room. I'm sort of the odd guy out in a way. But I like to think that what I've built over time is the idea that I'm willing to give my input and ask for certain things to be done. And I can tell you that conversations that I've had with both our state and our federal legislators, they're asking us about the human side of this, which is great, because there is a whole side of it that's economic development, and it's very much incentives and remediation and all these terms that are, kind of weird for most people to think about, but they understand fully that, that when all this stuff happens, the question number one is going to be, okay, now how do I pay for my mortgage? How do I get my groceries every week? How do I, my kid's going to be a senior, and how do I give that kid a good senior year? Right. So, they have been very, very willing to listen to what I feel is the empathetic approach to this thing, which is like, how do we make people somewhat whole? We know we can't make them completely whole right off the bat, but how do we set them on a path that takes them there? Mm-hmm. And, I think that's what has happened with the website. I think that's what they're going to find at the Workforce Hub. And hopefully, as folks give us their feedback, we can add even more services to that as well. We have events coming up. We don't have all the dates for them yet, but we are going to have financial literacy classes that allow us to tell people, like, I know the inclination might be to spend your 401k down, but really there are other options for you. And so you need to think about all those options. You may be a person that loses your job and decides, you know what, I'm too old to go back to another job and apply. And maybe you want to start your own business. Maybe you want to take a side hustle like woodworking or, something like that and make it a business. We're going to provide those types of opportunities for folks to find out what that all looks like. Because, that's a job too. And so making sure that we give people enough information for them to make good, informed choices that are going to benefit them and their families, I think is the key to all this.
And to be able to find out what your skill set is. You start going through it. We've learned this through some of the GRIT program that has made its way through Southern Ohio. Sure. And if they can find out what you're good at, and maybe you've been, let's say you've had a factory job for most of your life, but you really like doing something on the side.
Yeah.
And to see maybe someone come in with some investment money to help you start a business.
Yep.
You may never have to work another day in your life because you enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. And free training as well. There are folks that offer, marketing. You might not be a social media person, right? And social media is really good to get your word out. How do we help them learn the skills that allow them to basically market their business? That's pretty important as well. And so, I think what you're going to see down the road is there's going to be some short-term pain. We know that. But I think over the long run, we're going to get so much more local control over what happens next there. And we're going to get a lot of ability to say, we want folks to have what they want, what puts food on their table, puts money in their bank account, but also makes them feel fulfilled and somewhat happy about, where they're at.
Yeah. You, of course, were a managing editor for the Chillicothe Gazette for a number of years. We've seen how the media industry has changed Sure. greatly in our market. But having said all that, now you're in the middle of being a cheerleader for the community. Not that you weren't so much as a managing editor, but you are cheering for our local businesses to make sure they're thriving. And I know we lose some along the wayside, but describe what this has been like for you. This has been, 6 years now? Has it been longer than that?
Yeah, I'm in my 6th year at the chamber. So I tell people all the time that, I always knew that I was going to have to leave media because of the way everything was going. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. You probably feel that yourself, right? And so I always just kind of like prayed and meditated on the idea of, just give me something that allows me to stay connected to this community, because I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunities that I got when I came here. I had never managed people before I walked in the doors at the Gazette on July of 1997. I had never really been a part of a community, like in terms of volunteering for boards, volunteering for services. I was on the Big Brothers board right away when I got here. So this place just embraced me and brought me in. And so I feel a great deal of responsibility to continue to give that back. And so I'm always trying to find an angle to try to help Chillicothe look better and better and better. And so, it's hard to do when you're going to, when there's so much uncertainty around the biggest icon in the community. That smokestack is, I've had people tell me that when they drive from Dayton to Myrtle Beach or something like that, when they get to the smokestack, they know they're almost home, right? And we know it too. And so I think for me, this whole experience has been it's been very much a roller coaster. It felt like we were losing everything on the 15th of April. And then 3 days later, we felt like we were gaining it back. Right. And then after that, it was sort of like up and down and up and down. And there's still a lot more to play out here. But it's nothing compared to the folks that are literally going to work every day and now aren't going to have, something to go to, or they've already left and now they're uncertain. Right. So my job as the chamber president is to try to help the community navigate that as much as possible, and to try to keep people's spirits up, because it's not always going to be easy. the fair's coming up, and we know how much whatever name the mill went by was such a huge part of what was going on there, right? And so some of that is going to be very bittersweet, but we still have the essence of what we know is great about Ross County, and I think we can capitalize on that to make the next big thing.
Yeah. One of the things I've always admired about Mike is he's always willing to roll up his sleeves and say, what can we do to make this work?
Yeah,
so.
I don't offer a lot, but I do offer that. So
we have to offer something.
That's right.
There's a body and there's a brain that comes along with it as well.
Sometimes.
Plus a congenial personality as well. So, Mike, thank you so much. Again, SciotoValleyForward.com.
Correct.
That's active today. You can go and peruse through that and see how it might be able to assist you in what your future.
And the Workforce Hub is open as of right now. Will be open until 4 o'clock today, and then Wednesday and Friday as well.
Very good. Thank you again
Thanks,
for stopping
Dan.
in.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for watching this edition of Litter Media Live, presented to you by Kingston National Bank.